All right, let's get started.
Right, we're both recording. So, how lovely to see you, the lovely Sherri Divband. How are you doing, Sherri?
I'm doing well. I just finished moving and I am in love with Florida. I just am so happy here. The people are so different and it's a shift of energy. I have a Doberman we've talked about several times who's a high anxiety dog. And like he's completely different here. It's like the energy's shifted and he's just more calm and relaxed and it's a different environment. So I'm really happy to be here. It's been a stressful 3 weeks getting settled, and I've had to push back so many appointments, and I haven't been able to work much. But I'm getting back into it now, and I'm feeling much more balanced these days. So yeah, I'm doing well. How about you?
That's fantastic. It's absolutely fantastic. I'm doing really well. And I love the way that you brought up that you've noticed how it shifted your dog's energy, because we see this so much. And this is why our dogs, our children, what we're attracting in our life is such a good reflection back for where we're at. And that fits so well in what we're going to be talking about today. We're beginning to be talking about why frequency really matters and bringing karma into it and everything, aren't we?
Absolutely, yeah. Do you want me to
So,
get started?
yeah, talk me through now. Why is this such a hot topic for you at the moment?
I wanted to talk about it today, Catherine, because I've heard a few people talking about it in a public platform, saying that it's BS and it's not real, and raise your vibration is nothing, is not important. And I absolutely disagree. And I want to talk about today why that is, because it absolutely does matter. And I know it seems like a Hallmark affirmation that everyone keeps saying it. Now we see them on t-shirts and those little boxes that you could put in your home for decoration. So it has kind of shifted as far as like the resonance of it, and how it can be misinterpreted as woo-woo. But in the reality of it is that the root of our frequency is everything, because we're energetic beings. We are energetic beings. Our environment is everything is energy. The quantum reality that we're in is energetic. And so our vibration is oscillating constantly every single day based on our emotions. That's what makes human beings so unique and so different than other beings, which is why we're so attracted to, they're so attracted to us and what we're doing, because we have the ability to experience a wide spectrum of emotions. And that's why souls want to come here, because they want to experience what it is like to be sad, or to experience challenges in your life, and have severe joy. But then and it's not bad to be upset. It's not it's okay to be sad. It's okay to be upset. It's okay to be mad. It's part of our human emotional process. And each of those emotions has a vibration attached to it. So when you're in fear, it's the lowest. Fear, shame, guilt are the lowest vibration. I mean, you can measure it. There are machines now, biofrequency machines, that can actually measure the frequency. So there is a science to it, but energy healers like myself and many others out there can also measure it, put a measurement to it as well. In density, we could feel it. It's
Yeah.
very dense, it's very heavy. You can actually manipulate it and move it through someone's energy field, so that you can feel it, and there's a measurement to it. And when you're in a low vibration of fear, anger, whatever it is, what happens is your physical body becomes disbalanced and you are off in alignment. And then the chakras, our beautiful chakras that connect the physical body with the energetic body, the light body, and it's the pathway of the in between the two, which is really important, because we are metaphysical spiritual beings, but we are also physical and we have a body. So the two have to interact. And that's how the chakras do that for us. And it helps regulate and balance. Of course, our hormones and physiology plays a role in that, but it's all energy at the root. So when the energy is off and you're in a low vibration, the chakras aren't working that appropriately and the energy is not flowing. And now the physical body has to reacts to that. There's a physical manifestation. So you start having stomach aches, you start having bowel issues, you start having headaches, depending on where the energy is in the body. And so it's absolutely important to understand that your frequency is relevant, because your frequency gives off a vibration. So if you're in a beautiful frequency of faith and joy, your vibration that you give off, others will feel. that resonance of faith and joy, which is very high vibrational. So that's why people who come into contact with somebody and they instantly feel warm and invited and secure and loved with somebody, they just feel love. You know, like when you go to an animal, a puppy, oh my God, there's no better example than holding a little baby puppy. It's like pure love vibration, right? That's the resonance that they're in. And when a human being is in a resonance of love, joy, and higher vibration, excuse me, the chakras are working appropriately and the physical body is physiologically working appropriately and everything is in alignment. And what your vibration, what you're vibrating out is also what we attract. So it's all relevant because our vibration not only has to do with our physical wellness, it has to do with our emotional wellness, our mindset, but also what we attract. So when we're saying raise your vibration, it's not some woo-woo Hallmark card. This is very important right now because the ascension, in my belief, now everybody has their own opinions. Nobody's right or wrong. It's all about perception, right? So in my world, in my reality, in my perception, I believe the ascension is about each person in this planet reclaiming their power by way of understanding or understanding how the body interacts with energy and it's all related and how you can control it and recognize and reclaim your power. And so raising your frequency is extremely important in this ascension right now because the higher frequency you are, the more likely you are to attract experiences and relationships and people that are in an equal, somewhat equal resonance to you as well. And you're going to be in more better physical health, mental, emotional stability, and you'll be able to have a better connection to your intuition, which is what I talk about quite frequently is how to connect to your intuition, raise your vibration, because everything else will fall into place. So I wanted to, we can get more into that, but that's kind of how I wanted to start today. So people understand what does it mean to raise your vibration and how do you do it? And there are a lot of different ways, but the root of the principle of it is how I explained.
Yeah, it's such an important subject, and we're going to go through some specific examples for people today, not from a judgment point of view, but from an example, because it's all about us developing the tools to transform, because energy cannot be created or destroyed. That's one of the bits of science that I happen to really agree with, but it can be transformed into different forms and we see obvious forms of this, like water can be steam, it can be ice, it can be liquid, so we see obvious forms. And I think most people realize now that with quantum physics, with quantum biology and things, that we are all just vibrating balls of energy. So I've been working with light therapy for years as part of my therapies that I offer for people and animals. And, physically, certain diseases cannot thrive above certain vibrational rates of your cells. And that's just been proven time and time again. That might not be out in mainstream because certain people don't want us to know this. But one of the reasons we were so passionate about having this conversation today is to help empower people to be really honest with themselves about where they're at, because you mentioned so many important things there. And one which I think is so critical is we all have our own lens and filter that we put all information through. But we all know at the simplest level, we know the people that we want to connect with that uplift us, and we know the people that don't uplift us, and we might find our energy levels or mood falling. And that in its simplest form, animals know this so well. Animals are amazing. They know when a thunderstorm's coming, they know when a tsunami's coming, they can pick up the vibration of where a person's at. We all know our animals know when we're sad, when we're happy, and they'll react accordingly. But one of the things I think, I was just speaking with Shanti and Mornay about this, is that we can't sort of have it two ways. A lot of people who are listening to conversations like this, I think, are quite well aware that we are all creating our own reality, but we can't pick and choose which bits of the reality we're creating. We're creating all of our reality. So if we're feeling triggered or upset or in lack about something, we've got to look at ourselves for that, not outside ourselves. And we're so programmed to look outside ourselves if something else or someone else has caused it, that is the biggest distraction, because it stops us looking inside.
Yeah, absolutely. And another important element to this conversation, Catherine, is our perception can also change based on our vibration. And we have all heard the term hindsight's 2020. You know, when you're really upset and in the heat of an argument, you're going to say, feel, and do things that you wouldn't normally do, or you might not be thinking more clearly than you could if you just calm down and come back later and you're like, gosh, I don't even know what I was so upset about. Because the heat of an argument has to do with the vibration that you're in that moment, and it's very limiting, it's restricting, and it's like you have tunnel vision. So when you calm down and you're at least in a balanced state, if not higher, maybe you've had some time to relax, you breathe it out and you're like, "Oh, okay, I'm okay now." Then you realize that, oh wow, I think that maybe perhaps I overreacted, or I misjudged this person, or whatever the situation may be. You know, and one of the most enlightening, liberating, whatever word you want to use, experience a human can have is when they can admit that they've done something wrong, or perhaps they misinterpreted something. And I think that it's a very humbling experience. And I'm the first to tell everybody, you know, I'm constantly telling my children, oh, mom's wrong, sorry, you know, like I'm always like, sorry, you know, I thought I was right and you guys proved me wrong. And you know, that's all about the human experience. And I think that it's happening for a lot of people right now in their reality, is they're realizing as they shift vibration, their perspective is also shifting, and they're looking at things a little bit differently than they did before. And that's an important part of our growth and the transformation.
I think it's so important, and animals don't find it difficult to say sorry at all. I mean, I watch my animals from all species interacting all the time. Talking of which, I've got a little video to put up later on over the weekend of my guinea pigs. Talk about any animal being in pure love vibration. Guinea pigs have got it down to a key. They're just adorable in every possible way. But animals, if they overstep the mark, they'll go up and either sort of submit or say sorry in their own body language way and vibration. And it's so easy, then it's done, dusted. There's no grudge, then it's all left. And I think one of the things at the moment is it's okay to realize that we're all being triggered by lots of different things. We've all got a lot of frustrations. We've all got a lot of don't know what to do about these things. We might say or react in ways that we don't like, but the beauty is to have time to reflect on it, and ideally before you react. But if you have reacted, that's okay. You can still, it's never too late to say sorry, or to look at it from a different mindset or from a different point of view, or sort of say, okay, what response was I expecting to get out of that? Because it's so important that we all continue to learn and evolve, and sort of think, what we put out there is what we're going to get back. You know, karma means action. In its literal translation, apparently it means action. And, you know, you will get, when we talk about karma, you can have good or bad karma in your life, and it comes from many layers. But the point is it's your actions will always have a reaction to them. And it's only yours. It's your karma, your actions, your reaction back at it.
That's so important, Catherine. You're so right, because my reaction to it is my karma, and your reaction to it is your karma. We are in complete control, and I feel like that's the key to life. And I try to explain that for decades now to people, and like how you react to it, how you tether yourself to somebody in a situation is going to bind you as long as you want. You're in control of how long it's going to take you to forgive somebody and move on. And I always tell people, try to forgive. It's really, forgiveness is really difficult. And I've been there. I've been there where I'm mad at people for 10 years. Everyone used to say Sherri's like an elephant. She never forgets. I'll never forget, but I can move on and disconnect myself energetically from people. And I think that's an important tip right now, because so many people are going in different directions based on their political views. Every view right now is being tested. But I think that's part of the ascension, and traveling through the fourth dimensional field is trying to find your tribe again. And some people are going to lose friendships and family members, and some are going to gain exceptional ones. And then sometimes some are going to meet, you know, we're going to separate and then kind of meet back. That's why I always tell everybody, you know, it's not bye forever. It's just bye for right now, likely, you know. So you need to separate yourself from your mother, your sister, your friend, your neighbor, coworker. That's okay. Do what you need to do separately, because perhaps later on you might find each other again. And if you don't, that's part of your soul's choice and their soul's choice. And there's not much we can do about that. But I think I totally lost my train of thought there when I went, I totally.
Well, there's so much to all this. I think it's such a difficult one to get across to people, because obviously when people go into reactive mode, and we are so in reactive mode, and the way that, you know, social media is so bad for that, because, you know, when I was young enough to be at school or growing up with friends, you had to take responsibility for your actions. If you got into a disagreement, it was a face-to-face, because we didn't have anything online. So when you have those face-to-face interactions, it's much easier to realize that you're going to have to take responsibility for those interactions. Whereas when you're doing it at a distance, it's so much harder because you get away with so much. It's very easy to build up bad habits, I feel. But you get to a stage when you realize that you have to take accountability and realize that it's only you can only control how you're responding to people, what you're putting out there. So shall I read an example that I got today, because it might be good for us to talk through? And that I'm reading this example, I want to make this clear, not from a point of it's a perfect example that I'm really happy. It's an email that came through to me right before I started speaking to Sherri. So it's really important. So this, obviously I won't mention who it's from. So this is an email, and I'm going to read it exactly as it's written. So there's no dear or hello or anything. So you're promoting a seer. Not only is it super expensive, but to take advantage of the welcome pack, I would need to enroll in a monthly subscription before I've even tried it, which puts it way out of the reach to myself and my daughter-in-law. Therefore, it's only available to the wealthy, e.g. yourself, Mark Atwood, etc. I'm truly disappointed. As with the root products, the postage alone almost doubles the price. Yours most sincerely. Now, the reason I'm pointing this out to you is not to put blame or laugh at someone, even though it is bringing out a giggle. Luckily, it's bringing out a high vibration giggle in me, not an anger, which is how I would have reacted in the past. And the reason is there's so many assumptions in there. One, that Mark Atwood and I are really wealthy. Well, I know Mark said he is, but I've never said I am. But secondly, there's so many assumptions there, because if you write something down like that, and we all know when you commit something to writing, it gives extra energy to it because you're putting it in a physical form. It's like there isn't really a high vibe response that could necessarily come back from that. But what I'd like to say is, if someone's feeling that, and I can understand the frustration, so many people are feeling the pinch financially at the moment. But if someone had written to me like, I'm really interested in this, but I'm struggling how to afford it. Can you help me come up with any solutions? Is there any suggestions? Is a completely different energy, and you would get a different response back. Because it's so funny, because I'm a holistic health practitioner. I help people provide solutions in all ways, and some of those solutions are free, some aren't. So if I'm only promoting stuff that I personally use myself and my family day in, day out, and know really works. So if I think something's good, I'm going to share it with people. But that doesn't mean everyone has access. Not everyone's got a computer to watch YouTube. You know, we're all in different situations. And I just thought that was just a perfect example of putting something out in a certain vibration, and what are you expecting to get back from that?
Yeah, absolutely. It's clear that the person is in a vibration of frustration, and envy a little bit, and envious of those that can afford it. And like you said, people are going to promote products right now that not everybody can afford. I take ASEA as well, and I had to take a break over the summer because I knew my finances couldn't accommodate it with the move and all the endless unexpected things that pop up when you're moving to a new home. And so I took a break from it, and I just redid my subscription. So it's all about what you can budget in for. And if someone contacts you in a vibration of at least balance and saying, gosh, I love these products. I hear such great things about them. I can't really afford it right now. Do you know, and like you said, is there another are there other ways to get it? Or, perhaps she does the smaller packages. It's all about how our energy and what we're giving off. Because when you give off an email of, and I get emails like that and posts on comments on my on videos that people are being triggered left and right, and it's all about how we handle those triggers. Is going to determine how fast you are able to transmute your energy in this field right now, this quantum field of convolution. I mean, it's crazy right now, the array of energy that people find themselves in, all the way from anger, fear, resentment to pure joy. I mean, I work with clients all over the world. I do, readings and healing sessions, and I work with people who are like, despite the fact that everything on the news is negative, 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 and everyone around me seems to hate me, they're like, I feel great. I feel motivated. I feel at peace. I know everything's going to be okay. I don't really have a lot of money in the bank, but it's all about how you react to your environment. I don't have endless, I don't have money like that either. So I never talk about that. But I always tell my husband and my children, we have everything we need. And I come from a place of gratitude. I know the universe will always provide for me what I need. If I can't take a SIA for 3 months because I can't afford it at the time, then I'll find other ways to care for myself. Go outside, have vitamin D, live in joy. That is the best medicine, because that's the vibration that's not going to allow, like you mentioned earlier, illnesses, toxins, parasites, none of those will thrive. Dis-ease only thrives in a vibration that's low, which is why we want to be in a high vibration, right? So when you're in a high vibration of when you have faith, joy, excitement is one of the best. Just be excited about what's to come, and living in gratitude. I'm so grateful. Instead of thinking about all the lists of things that I have to pay for right now to keep us in this home and all the unexpected costs, I'm like, I'm so grateful for this home. I'm so grateful that we made it here in one piece. I'm so grateful my pets are doing so amazing. My cat too is the happiest he's ever been. We have this huge outdoor area that's covered, so he can just be outside, because he's a Sphinx, so he can't be out like a traditional outdoor cat, because he can get sunburn. His skin is vulnerable to brushes and things like that. And of course, he's a target to wild birds because he looks like a rat, So I can't let him, but he wants to be outside. Now he can be outside like 90% of the day. It's in safety, but he sees the birds and he's so happy. He's completely at peace. He loves it here. So, and my children are happy. And I'm thinking about all the things that I'm happy about and all the things I'm grateful for. I have a rule, and I would love to share this with people. I know right now, because of the clients that I speak with and friends and family, that a lot of people are having a hard time sleeping right now. Are you having a hard time sleeping? Okay, and some
I'm having a hard time sleeping, but there's a but to there, but I'll come on to that. I don't want to disrupt your flow.
Yeah, well, regardless of why you're having a hard time sleeping, the point is that when you're up in the middle of the night for hours on end, it's like 2 a.m. and you're laying in bed and you're like, oh, I wish I could sleep right now. My rule is, because that tends to be the time that people start to get the brain going, and they're thinking, oh my gosh, I got bills to pay. When's this money coming in? They start going down the list of negative things, and they start to get fear. They're in fear mode. Next thing you know, your body goes from this nice parasympathetic relaxed mode of sleep to now it's in sympathetic adrenaline-based fight or flight. You're definitely not going to go back to sleep. And if you do, it's going to be a very disruptive, non-balanced, you're not going to have good sleep, because you've now put your body in a state of panic, of fear, of anxiety, because you're thinking all these negative thoughts. So I started this rule really during the pandemic period, because I was thinking about all of these crazy things and documentaries I was seeing, everybody was going through it, right? Yeah. Learning, disclosure. And I would find myself up in the middle of the night, just just so overwhelmed. And then money, I wasn't working, like everyone else, not like a lot of people. And I was like, I can't pay my bills. And I was freaking out. And I said, you know what, Sherri, this is not the time to be in fear. When you wake up in the middle of the night, what I started to do was I started to, first breathe, because I'm a big practitioner of breath work. And I brought myself back to balance. And I said, you're only allowed to think about the things you are in control of and the things that you are grateful for. So to this day, and it's been years now, when I wake up in the middle of the night, as soon as I find myself worrying about something or anything creeps in like that, I immediately say, okay, Sherri, what are you excited about? What's to come this week? What are you doing tomorrow that you're grateful for? And I literally shift my whole mindset. Now, I don't always fall asleep, but I do not allow myself to be in fear mode. And I think that that's a great tip for everybody right now, because so many people are having this insomnia. And if you just try to think about positive things, think about what you're excited about, what you're grateful for, and what you can control, and solution-based thoughts, you will get through this period much more easily and more in balance.
It's so, so important. And the reason I was saying there's a but with mine is I don't ever sort of go to sleep and then wake up and can't go back to sleep. But what I've got into is quite a bad work habit, because a lot of my clients, because I'm like you, I work with private clients all over the world, and a lot of them are in completely different time zones. So I've been working later and later and later because I love my work so much. But I'm also up very early in the morning with all my gorgeous rescue animals and everything, which I equally love. So even though I know how important sleep is, I've got into bad habits with working too late. And then if I'm on the computer, my brain doesn't switch off. And it's so funny that you were saying that, because that's exactly what I do. So breath work for me, which is completely free, and there's so many amazing resources and so many different types of breath work you can do. You will find something that resonates with you. And I use different techniques for different times. So if I want to energize myself, I'll use the Wim Hof technique. If I want to calm myself down, I'll use different techniques. But also I've got my little journal by the side of the bed. So if there's something on my mind, I write it down and then I can forget about it. And that really, really helps me, because, whether it's just something like, oh, I mustn't forget to get back to that person tomorrow because I'm a bit behind with my emails. Or if it's like, something that, as you say, that you're really grateful for. And then the other thing I do is that, without fail, the last thing before I try to go to sleep or lie down to go to sleep, and the first thing when my eyes open in the morning, is my gratitude. And it transforms my whole day, because everything is perspective. So I get so much stick from a lot of people. Can you believe it? For me, I can't believe it, because it's if someone had said to me when I was a little child that I'd wake up in the morning and I'd have 2 ponies, dogs, cats, and guinea pigs, I'd have died like, this is everything off my dream board come true. But so many people say to me, oh, it's ridiculous, you've got so many animals, it's such a tie, you can't do this, you can't do that. And I'm like, it's heaven for me, the absolute heaven. The first thing I do when I get up in the morning is go out and see all my animals. So it's all perspective. It can be a tie and a drain and a nightmare, or it can be your idea of heaven. You choose.
Exactly. That's the whole purpose of why we come here. It's our soul's journey. And we can never, one of the biggest mistakes that I've found, and it started when I work a lot with parents and children. And the biggest mistake that parents make, and anyone really, this is across the board. You can never judge somebody based on what you would do in a situation. It's irrelevant. It's absolutely irrelevant. And you know what? I love my husband to death, but he does this all the time. He's like, that person, if it was me, I would have done this. And I said, so what? They're not you, like it doesn't matter. So you have to allow people to make their choices based on their vibration, their wisdom, how many lives they've had, and this collection, their thoughts, their emotions. I mean, it's a beautiful energy that's unique to every person on this planet. So someone can look at you and be like, oh, Catherine, they're thinking about all the things that you have to do and take care of your pets, and you can't just pick up and travel around the world and this and that. And you're thinking, well, this is heaven for me. I love this, right? And I think that there's there's an example of that, but people do it all the time. It's very judgmental to some degree in some cases, because people constantly are like, well, if it was me, I would have done this. We have to stop. We have to stop doing it. And people, even me, I'll catch myself thinking it, but I don't say it out loud. And then I'm like, you know what? It's their journey, and I want to do that with your children, because we think we know best, but we actually don't always know best what's right for our children. And, I was a young mom when I had my first son. To me, I felt young. There are women that have children way younger, but at 23, I was a baby. Okay. I could barely take care of myself. I just graduated college. I had no money. My husband and I weren't married at the time. And, whoa, I didn't know what I was doing. And you grow up real quickly, though, when you're responsible for another life. But my children have taught me so this is my experience. My children have taught me the most in this world, and every single one teaches me more and more about life, about myself, about things that I need to change, and also to get us there, our children. And I'm not just discounting people who don't have children. People also have other people that come into their life to teach them in the same way a child can, where they just happen to pop into your life as a brief acquaintance, a neighbor, a family member, or even a mentor, right? So there's a varying degrees to that. And that's what the human experience is about. It's about allowing people to come in and perhaps maybe test your views, test your boundaries, and it's how we react to it, and it's how we learn and how we evolve as a collective. And we have to stop judging people, though. You know, you give them the information and say, you know, if it was me, I might have done this. Okay, great. Now let them figure out if they would like to do what you would have done. Maybe it doesn't work for them. And this is, I really feel like we have been trapped in this third dimensional reality, this thick, dense, fear-based, convoluted matrix for way too long. And part of the ascension is us breaking free of that and reclaiming our oneness, our connection to our sovereignty individually, and then collectively we come together in a different vibration of love, unity, oneness, and we shift humanity, right? That's the whole point of everything that we're doing right now, or why, you know, I take time out of my day and you take time out of your day to put on these, to make these videos, to help people, to guide people. You know, I am not a preacher. I'm not going to tell anybody that I am right. This is my view. And if it resonates with you, that's wonderful. I love to help people. But if it doesn't, then you just turn the channel and switch and watch somebody else. Because everybody does have a perspective that's different. And, you know, not everybody's going to agree with what I say. There could be people right now saying she's full of shit, you know? Okay, well, I'm sorry. And you'll find, I hope you find the right person that can guide you in the direction that you're going. We just don't have a resonance that matches.
Yeah.
And that's where we are right now. And I don't judge those people. I don't judge those people that have different political views than me. I don't talk about my political views. I'm not outspoken about that. But just about everything else, I really don't care what anybody else feels or how they operate their life, as long as we can communicate with kindness and respect for other people. That's I believe that's what the children and the animals are trying to teach us.
I so agree with all of that, respect. And there's been so many examples very, very recently with friends that I've got, and my online friends I'm talking about at the moment, because it's relevant, where we've got very, very different viewpoints about certain situations and things, but it hasn't affected our friendship at all, because it's respecting and understanding that they are completely entitled to their viewpoint. And it's wonderful. For me, it's wonderful to see people when they're acting in their authentic self. And so long as, you know, when it's pretty obvious when people are acting in their, well, it is to me, I think, I have got it wrong. Don't try to me, I've got it wrong. But each time I get it wrong, I learn from it. And the difference is now I can laugh at it. So the last few years of all this disclosure and things have been amazing for me, because it has really been in my face where my judgments are. Because I do have strong opinions about things, but I'm very open to changing my opinion. And I have done on numerous occasions, often completely the opposite direction, because suddenly I've got a different level of awareness. You know, when you're talking about listening to people, if you're listening to anything, you're searching for something. Otherwise, you wouldn't be switching YouTube on, or the radio, or a podcast, or the TV, whatever your chosen method, even picking up a book. Whenever we do things like that, it's because there's something inside us is looking for something. And there's some people that I will really, really resonate with and listen to. Mm-hmm. And then I'll sort of move on from them. Doesn't mean I don't like them, or I'm throwing out all the stuff and how they've got me to another stage of myself and knowing and understanding myself. And then I might not listen to them for 5 years. And then I might come back in to listen to again, because then I'm hearing it from a different place, because I'm in a very different place. And you go through these yo-yos, and that's exactly what you were saying earlier about people coming and going from your life. It's not necessarily forever at all. It might be, it might not be, and we don't know, because who of us know who we're going to be as an individuals in a week, let alone a year's time. I certainly don't with me.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I look back at myself 5, 10, 15 years ago, and I'm like, whoa, people who knew me back then would not recognize me now. And it's all about, and it's okay. It's all about transformation. And you see who you're still talking to and communicating with all those years later that are still in your life, and those that kind of came in and came out. That's part of the growth. And that's the hardest part. That's one of the challenging things that I think people are having right now. With this whole ascension process, the awakening, whatever you want to call it. There's so many titles that all mean the same thing. You know, our evolution is the what's the word I'm trying to think of? I just lost it. Where the difference of opinions between people, and the arguments are getting very heated between parents and children and spouses and siblings and neighbors and the coworkers, and people are just angry at each other and throwing swords, and you're right, you're wrong, I'm right, and all of these things. And it's we have to step back and stop fighting with each other, and recognize that, like, we're all on our own journey. We all have our own eyes, that and the perceptions are shifting, and some people have their intuition connected and some don't, and there's no right or wrong, and nobody knows the full story. I certainly don't. And anybody out there on these interviews that's saying that they know anything with certainty, I think that's a red flag, because they don't. And channeling right now, we talked about this right before this conversation. Channeling is really is oh, what's the right word, Catherine? It's
challenging. It's very challenging, because there isn't, just like you said, that there is no certainty in all of this, and it's all a lesson, because we've all got the ability to channel. We're all doing it at a subconscious level all the time, and sometimes we're more tuned in with that than others, and some people have perfected the art a lot more, or have a natural inclination to pick up the information easier. But you don't know whether that information you're getting is right. It's right for you and it's real for you, but you, even if you're channeling, you're still putting it through your filter.
absolutely
Change it. So we could both, you and I could both be channeling from exactly the same source. So like when I do the animal communication, it's a perfect example. When I do the animal communication, I'm picking up, call it telepathic thoughts and feelings from the animal. But for me to then communicate with the human, I have to put it through my human filter. So if you and I were communicating with the same animal, we'd express what we were picking up differently. But not only that, the animal would tell us different things based on our individual personalities and our expertise and our ability to translate what they want to say. I mean, I've got some really, really good friends, and there might be some friends that I might talk to about relationship issues, some friends I might talk to about work or financial issues. You've got different resonances, even with people you're really close to.
Yeah, you're so right, and it's all about interpretation. I do soul readings, and there's a million other people out there that do soul readings and energy healing. So I'll work with a client, and it has to go through. So I work telepathically. When I do a session with somebody, I communicate with their higher self, and then I also call in, a spirit guide, an angel, or a soul family member from wherever they're from. And then I always say for their highest good, and I have very thick protection practices. But again, I get it. The way I get it, receive information is visuals, flashes, telepathic communication that comes through as thoughts. Sometimes it's audible. Sometimes, there's so many different varieties. My little human brain then, and sometimes I tell my clients, oh my God, I'm so overwhelmed. I have to process it and then tell the person in a way that makes sense to them. And half the time I'm like, I don't even know really what this means. So then my conscious mind, the cognitive side, the analytical part of me has to, sometimes I'm like, okay, I think this might be what it means, but who am I to interpret that? It might be different. Like you said, it's so difficult right now to discern 100%. Because we are, and my vibrate, if I'm feeling ill or I'm really wiped, I had to cancel a bunch of appointments the last few weeks. Sure, I could find a corner in my house to do a session, but I was so tired. My vibration was probably pretty low because of just constant unpacking and lifting, and that I don't think I would have been a good conduit of energy, or I wouldn't
Yeah,
be able to receive, because I would have. So our vibration can also change how we interpret. And there's so much that the clarification is never going to be 100%. Nobody, I don't care who they are, can ever
exactly.
tell somebody 100%. And I've had sessions with people where I've told them something and they're like, well, I had a session with so-and-so last week, and they said that I tell, oh, I'm feeling, Arcturian energy around you, or whatever, Syrian. And they're like, oh, well, so and so said I'm Pleiadian, and it contradict. And I said, listen, first of all, nobody is from anywhere. Okay, we're all from light. So whether our light decided to incarnate on Sirius B for 100,000 years, and then we went to Pleiades or wherever, what I'm seeing in a session might be that your soul feels like Pleiades is home for you. But in the reality of it, on a grander spectrum, nobody's from anywhere. We're from light. So you can't say you're from somebody. Like, I'm from California in this life, in this body, because I was born in a hospital in Los Angeles, California. That is fact. But where you say my soul is from, my soul origin, is very hard. So I tell people, listen, that person could have seen a lot of lifetimes in Sirius, and I'm seeing Pleiades. I'm just throwing out a bunch of
Yeah.
places right now. But you get the point. Who's right? Am I right? Or is that person right? And I tell them, honestly, I think we're probably both right. We're just interpreting the information that we're receiving right now. And now you, as the sovereign being, needs to decide what you want to take of that information. What resonates with you? That's your choice. That's your freedom, your free will. And so this is crazy, right? Like, trying to interpret, trying to understand all the different perspectives. And I think that the part of our evolution is being able to accept that and know that you don't know everything, and you're not, and nobody's perfect. My daughter has this thing lately where she's like, I'm not perfect, Mom. I'm sorry. And I'm like, whoa, I never want you to be perfect. There's no such thing, Aramis.
No such thing. And your definition of perfect would be completely different to mine. I mean, I do think that every guinea pig is perfect. But no, I'm jesting with everyone, although I'm not really. But I do think if we all look like guinea pigs, there'd be no wars, quite frankly. But in all seriousness, it does make me laugh, because I think the thing that us humans quite often forget, and again, every time I'm saying this, folks, I'm putting my hand up and saying, me, I'm a human this life as well. But is the integration time. So, we take on energy, information in all forms, and information is just energy, but then we have to integrate it. And quite often at the moment, particularly of the last few years, anyone who's watching you or I speak, we've all been taking on so much information, but we haven't necessarily had any integration time, because it's constantly coming at us and everything. And that does get overwhelming for your mind, body, and spirit. And therefore, it's sort of almost like keeping you in a permanent state of adrenaline, a permanent flight or flight response, because the whole point is you do need those downtimes to integrate, incorporate what you need to know, get rid of what you don't need to know, etc. So I think when I was looking into the subject of karma before this, it's almost like, and I've heard, I can't remember who said it, but I have heard this before. It's like a lot of animals molt their fur or shed their skin at certain times. And that's because they're ready for their next stage of growth, and they're getting rid of the old. It's like the trees getting rid of their leaves every winter if they're a deciduous tree. This allowing ourselves time to take on board the nutrients, the information, the energy, we've got to remember to shed what no longer serves us as well, because if not, there's a blockage there in your system.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. And I think that humans can tie it into the seasons, because I absolutely agree with what you're saying. That's why springtime is about new beginnings. It's like our transformation. So it's the time of year, which our New Year should be in spring, and we know why it's not. But that's our opportunity to rebirth ourselves, create new ideas, to shed the old, and be okay with transformation. And then, summer is about action. So now we put our transformation into action, and we actually do, and it's time to do things. And then in the fall, we kind of slow down and we start to reflect. Okay, how did that work out for me? What can I do better? What could I do worse? What are you grateful for? And then winter is a time of rest. and you give yourself some time to kind of recluse a little bit. And it's okay to be the hermit and introvert a little bit and just take care of yourself, in preparation for springtime to come around again, and you to do it all over again. So I believe that, not everybody has those 4 seasons depending on where they live, but it's the idea of it,
Yeah.
and that's our opportunity to continuously evolve, and it's okay to change. Some people are so rigid and stuck in their ways, and they think it's not a good thing to change, when in actuality, I believe it's a wonderful transformation of the human race to be able to say, I don't really like that food anymore, I don't really like that activity anymore, I really like this now, and we kind of gravitate into something different. And I believe that that's where we're moving into, and that's what I'm trying to create with this children's schools. To pivot for just a second, is giving children the opportunity from a young age to recognize that, and to create experiences for them that allow them to dabble into different things and find what they like, and then really concentrate on that, and really pick and choose, as opposed to how things are designed right now, where everybody has to do the same thing, and even if they don't want to, that's why so many children act out. Now, there are a lot of children out there that do exceptionally well in this current education system, and thrive, and are just wonderful in it, and that's good for them, and I'm glad that they're able to do that. But in the reality of it, there are a lot that are struggling, and the resources are not provided for those children, and they're looked at as their problems. They categorize them or label them as the spectrum kids, and so on and so forth. And we need to get out of that with everybody in humanity. Like, it doesn't matter your age. You could be a 90-year-old woman, and she needs to be looked at as a dynamic, sovereign, beautiful being that is still able to change. It doesn't matter our age, and I feel like that's a good lesson for us right now. But karma, karma is about, there's positive and good, there's good and bad karma, and I think people also forget about that. We
Yeah.
have great karmic relationships. I have wonderful karmic relationships with a lot of people, children, my husband, you name it, right? We are together to karmically create or guide or help each other, and it's beautiful. Right? My children, your children. And then there's bad karma, or negative karma. Really, we should use the word negative, not bad. And that's karma that, it's nefarious, or it's out of our control, or it's part of the matrix that's designed to keep us, like negatively connected to people. And that's what another part of this conversation today that we wanted to talk about with everybody is, how can we disconnect from negative karma, negative energy, and negative contracts right now, because this is really, really important. And I believe, and I have been guided over the last, decades of work, in my own transformation, in my own learning process, that I used to believe, and that's how I was taught by previous mentors. Again, no right or wrong. It's just the time period, I believe, of the collective, right? That things needed to be like this long process, where in order to heal, you needed to do this 20-step thing, and it had to go in this order, and it's very strategic, and you had to do it a certain way, and it was really, and oh no, you can't heal in that short of a period. It's going to take you years. It took me 10 years. No way can you do it sooner than that. And now I work with clients, and I'm like, listen, I took the long route because I believed that I needed to. And now I'm teaching people in my classes, my workshops, my sessions. It doesn't have to be that way. I believe we are ready for instant healing. And it doesn't, all about our intention. People need to understand that our intention is our superpower. It is the most important thing, because our body reacts to what our mind tells it. That is also scientifically proven. So if our intention is, I no longer consent to these negative relationships, negative karma, negative energetic ties to certain people, you can cut it. We have control to do that. You don't need to spend thousands of dollars and work with these world-renowned people that you have to wait 3 years to get in with. Like, you could do this right now all by yourself. It doesn't cost a one penny. You sit in your room, you create a safe space for yourself, you ask for protection, you protect yourself with whatever you like to use for protection, whether it's, copal, Palo Santo, crystals, candles, you have, pendants, whatever. Everybody has their thing, and nothing is right, nothing is wrong. It's all in your intention. If your intention is you're protected and you're in a golden bubble of light, well, gosh darn it, you are. There's nobody out there that can tell you you're not. You put a crystal grid around your home, you have a crystal grid around your home. I call on the animal kingdom protect me, and I do it all the time. I won't get into the story because it's out there in some other interview, but I was attacked viciously by this woman who was a mentor of mine, and I didn't see it coming. I really trusted her, and she put all sorts of curses on me, and it was awful. It took me 6 months to get out of this woman's energy, and I had to hire help. I couldn't even do it on my own. And at one point I called the energy of the animal kingdom to protect my home because I could feel her trying to attack us. And I called the animal kingdom because I work with the animal kingdom, as do you, as can anybody if they want. We're not unique in that way. And all of a sudden I closed my eyes and I almost cried, Catherine. I was in my bed. It was like 2 a.m. I was feeling like this woman I could hear this laughter, this horrible screeching laughter. And she was like, oh, you think I can't get in because I did this crystal grid? And oh my God. So the animals, I called the animal kingdom. And next thing you know, I had on my yard elephants, giraffes, rhinos, bears, every animal you could think of. Underneath, I had snakes and all sorts of like underground animals. In the air, I had eagles and hawks and ravens and all sorts of. I was surrounded literally above, below, and surrounding my house. And I just cried, and I could feel it instantly, that this protection. So whatever you guys watching this believe in or call upon, I believe it. It's there. If you believe it, it is. If you ask for it, it comes. And your intention has to be that I no longer consent. And you don't have to say it out loud. You put yourself in a position of power and integrity. And you say, I no longer consent to negative karma in my life, negative relationships, negative contracts. I cut ties with all negative experiences and people in my life that no longer serve my highest good. I always tell people, write this down on a Post-it note. And I no longer consent to anything that does not serve my highest good. If you use the word highest good at the end of every sentence, I only attract those relationships that are of my highest good into my life. I only attract whatever the statement is for my highest good. That's a blanket statement that really encompasses everything that you need, because anything that's of your highest good is going to be a vibration that is at least of balance or higher. Now, of course, we have lessons in our life and we have planned events that are part of our learning experiences that you might say, well, why did this bad thing happen? But I guarantee most people, if they're at a vibration of openness, we have hindsight and we look back and we say, I understand why I went through that, and I'm a better person. I'm more well-rounded now as a result of it. So when you say it's for my highest good, doesn't always mean that you're going to have this beautiful, easy life, no challenges. Otherwise, you wouldn't have incarnated here. Why did you come? Why did you come
Exactly. That's the whole point. It is exactly that. And going back to what you were saying, perhaps send me that afterwards, Sherri, and we can both put like a little example under the video, because sometimes if people are listening to this whilst they're driving or running or walking, they're like, what was it? So we'll put a little example that you can adapt to suit your specific needs underneath. But yeah, I think it's really important, and this is why it's always a balance. So it's really useful sometimes to look back. That's why we've all been looking at what's our real history, what really happened about these things, but we're not meant to stay there. It's like, I don't need to go back to what I was learning in school when I was 5 years old, but when I was 5 years old, it might be relevant. And I must say, I'm really pleased that you brought up that for some people the current education does suit them, because that's one thing I found is there's been a huge amount of shaming around it, and everyone is completely unique and everyone's at different stages about how they want to learn and how they don't learn. So absolutely, there's a huge percentage of people that it doesn't suit, but there are some which it does, and they're very happy in that at the moment. And that doesn't mean that they've been brainwashed and they've got what they needed out of it, and they will continue to learn. I mean, I've had so many careers in my life deliberately, which was quite unusual for my generation, because most of my peers that have went into a job for their life and worked their way up, and I've had completely diverse careers. And then when all this happened a few years ago, it was like incredible. It was like, oh my God, now I can see why I needed to know about this, about this, about this, about this. It was amazing. Whereas before I couldn't see a pattern in them at all. And now I really can. So you've got to just think your journey is unique to you. And if something, I spoke about this in another chat the other day, you know, I've got 2 children, and when they went through school, one of my best friends, her son was in the same class as my son. So they were in the same teaching group and everything. And my son in that particular school, not at the next one, but in that particular school, had a wonderful experience, loved it. And as a consequence, as a parent, because I could see how happy my son was and how well, not how well he was doing performance wise, just as a person and in just happy. And her son, who was at exactly the same school at exactly the same time, had a completely different experience. So if you'd have been to come along to us and say, I'm thinking of sending my child to this school, if you'd just spoken to me, you'd have got one story. If you'd just spoken to her, you'd have got a completely different story. But both were true from our perspective and from our children's perspectives. They were just different because they had a different experience in the same overall.